Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Music Spectrum podcast. My name is Ron Glista. This is episode number 4 of my podcast series I have going on. And tonight, my guest is Todd Stokes. And Todd and I have known each other for quite a few years now, going back to when our boys played Little League Baseball together. And actually, Todd was Aaron's first baseball coach, which is kind of cool. So how you doing tonight, Todd?
I'm great. Was I really his first coach ever?
Absolutely, you were.
I did not know that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm proud to know that.
Yeah, it's good information right there, right?
Yes, sir.
So, Todd, tell everybody a little bit about yourself. Man, I know some stuff about you, but let everybody know a little bit about yourself.
Well, I guess first and foremost, I'm a 7th grade math teacher in Salem. This is my 27th year, so I am getting up there. I am no spring chicken. I've been married for this year will be my 27th year anniversary with my wife.
Awesome.
And
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. We have a 14-year-old son, Landon, and I am the, I guess what we call a dog dad of 2 golden retrievers and a golden doodle. So my house is constantly nuts. There is never a dull moment here. Since we're talking music, music has been the number one thing in my life. As long as I can remember, I've played guitar since 1983. So I think 38, something like this winter, I think will be 38 years I've been playing guitar. I can't say I played it consistently. The first 6 years through junior high and high school, I worshiped the guitar. That's all I did. I came home from school and I never left my room. I just played. And then, life took over. And then I've played off and on over the years. This year with the pandemic, I figured, back in March, I got to come out of this year with something to show for it. So I will say this year I've played more than ever. My all-time lifelong hero, Eddie Van Halen, died. And when he died, it just lit a fire under me. And I bought some new gear lately, and it's kind of renewed my love for the instrument. So
awesome.
That's about it.
So you say you started playing guitar about what age again?
I was 12. I think I was 12 years old.
12 years old. Okay. What turned you on to playing guitar? I mean, was it somebody you saw play guitar? Was it a certain band, or what was that thing that turned you on to wanting to play guitar?
I got to be honest with you. I can't remember, like, guitar in general. I cannot remember. I always loved music. I mean, I loved the Beatles when I was younger. And then in the early 80s, Hall & Oates, I was into Hall & Oates so much. The songwriting aspect of their music was second to none. It really was. And it just inspired me. I saw Daryl Hall, he played guitar. When he wasn't playing keyboard, he always had a guitar, and so did John Oates. And I kind of wanted to be them at first. So my mom took me to the music store uptown, and they said, well, you really should start on acoustic, because you want to learn the fundamentals on that before you move on to electric, and then start learn how to make all the crazy noises and stuff. Well, that lasted about a year. I took lessons and I loved it, but then came Van Halen, and then it had to be electric, and then I was ready to rock out. So
yeah. So you say Beatles, Hall & Oates, and Van Halen. Now, was it your parents that turned you on to the Beatles?
I was a latchkey kid growing up, and I was an only kid. So I spent a lot of summer days at home. And when you're at home, you kind of like snoop around the house. And my mom had a box of her 8 tracks, believe it or not. I don't know if any of your listeners will even know what that is, but
I remember
she had a box
of
8 tracks from high school, and she had the Beatles greatest hits. I think there was like 2 series of those. She had the first series, like the first 4 years of their career, and there was like a double. She had 2 8 tracks, and I listened to those. I don't know why. I listened to those nonstop. And if you ever played an 8 track, you can't fast forward or rewind. So when you start playing one, you literally got to listen to the whole thing before you can get back to the song you want. So if you had a favorite song, you literally immerse yourself in their entire catalog to get back to it. So that's kind of what started me off in music.
I remember those days. My dad as well and my mom had 8 tracks growing up, and same thing. You pop one in because you like a song by this certain artist, this certain band. Like you said, you put it in and you can't rewind it. You got to listen to the whole thing all the way until the end of the 8 track, and then you got to start from the beginning again. So I feel for you, because I remember those days as well.
Yeah, when cassette players came out, it was the greatest piece of technology that I thought could ever exist in the rest of my life.
Simply because you could hit the rewind button, right?
And better than that, I could set the cassette player on the radio on the Casey Kasem's Top 40 Countdown, and you just prayed right when you hit record that the song you really wanted was there, and you'd get it. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was gold for me when I was a kid.
That takes me back to some years too, because I absolutely remember doing that. One of my first boom boxes that I had, I did the exact same thing. I would listen for the top, Casey Kasem's top 20 countdown or top 100 countdown or whatever it was back in the day. And same thing, I would sit there and wait for that certain song to come on. And you don't want anybody talking. You just want to hit record right when the song starts so you can have the perfect beginning to it.
Yeah, but you rarely got that. Like
No.
it took like probably 5 to 6 years down the road before I ever realized what the song sounded like without somebody saying some intro, because once you recorded it, that's what you listened to over and over and over. So that's how you knew the song.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So after your Beatles, you went into Hall & Oates and Van Halen. I also have John Cougar down here. So that's probably getting into the 80s. So mid to late 80s, where are you at in your lifetime as far as grade school, whatever?
Mid 80s, I'm in junior high. I graduated from high school in 89. So I'm an 80s child. So yeah, no, I mean, and when you bring up John Mellencamp, and actually, pretty much everybody on my list, I call it the soundtrack of my life. That's truly what it was. And what a great time it was to grow up.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I'm also an 80s kid. I didn't graduate till 95, but through my adolescent years into my middle school years and stuff, that was all the music that was playing, was all the 80s stuff, whether it was the one hit wonder stuff or the Michael Jackson stuff or, all the rock bands or whatever you would hear on the radio. That's what I'm hearing at all the dances as well as in the car driving home.
Yeah, let me tell you, I mean, in the early to mid 80s, top 40, I mean, the way I remember it, it was all phenomenal. And then, in 80, you had the new wave of British heavy metal come in with Iron Maiden and Priest. And then you had, bands from, America, Twisted Sister. They all kind of hit that 83 to 84 era. And it just, my God, I loved it. I loved everything about it. I mean, I guess any generation says that about their own music, but I don't care what anybody says. The 80s were the best.
I couldn't agree more. A lot of my favorite bands or artists are from the 80s. I mean, I can listen to pretty much anything, but if Jennifer and I are hanging around the house or sitting out on the deck or whatever, and we need to put a certain genre of music on, that's usually what goes on as the 80s channel on Sirius XM or, a playlist on my phone or something like that. That's usually our go-to music. So,
yes, sir.
Cool. So, you're playing of a guitar. What kind of guitar, I should say, or guitars do you have multiple at home?
Well, right now I have a I don't want to get too techie. I don't know what's too much, but I have a my primary guitar is a Jackson. It's a 2003 Soloist USA model, and it's got the pointy headstock from the 80s, and that was just one of those things I always wanted, and I was too poor to afford in the 80s. So when I had the money to afford one, my wife said, "Hey, go pick out your guitar." Had to have the pointy headstock, so I went with Jackson. When I was growing up, that was the guitar to have. And then I have an Ovation acoustic, the round back, and that's electric too. And those are my two main axes right now. I still have my older guitars from when I was a kid. They're in their cases in the back of my closet. They don't see the light of day too often. They're kind of, listen, I was happy to have them when I had them, but let's just say they're substandard to what I would want to use now. So
Gotcha. So when you were a kid growing up playing those couple guitars at first, how often would you take lessons? How often would you try to play on a given week or, whatever to make yourself better?
For the first year or two, I took a formal lesson, I believe once a week uptown at the Salem Music Center. And as far as playing, I mean, listen, it might be revisionist history, but the way I remember my youth, I played all the time. Listen, I was not an athlete by any stretch of the imagination once I got into high school, and I come home from school, and that's all I did. Literally, that's all I did. So And if I wasn't playing guitar, I was, trying to watch videos, on MTV or something like that, trying to absorb everything I could, when they have videos on, they just kind of do a quick flash of the guitars. I always wanted to see what the position of his hands were and, try to absorb everything I could doing it that way. So that's before YouTube.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. MTV. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. When they played music.
Yes. Not just all this other crap or whatever it is.
Yeah. I couldn't even tell you. I don't watch it anymore.
Yeah. Me neither. How long do you feel that it took you to play a song or get to a point where you felt that I'm pretty good at picking up all these notes on a certain song, or elaborate a little bit on that? Because I know, like, Jennifer, she has an acoustic guitar here at home, and it's hard for her to hit certain notes, and she would try, and for some people it just comes natural. Is that natural for you, or did it take you a while to actually learn all those notes?
I would not say I'm a natural. I back in the day in Salem, there were guitarists, or kids my age, they were natural. And to this day, they're still phenomenal and they know who they are. Me, I had to work at it. I still have to work at it. But I would say, man, listen, after 2 years, I was pretty much self-taught from then on. Okay. And it was kind of slow going at that time. I would say probably by my, I don't know, between my second and third year, that's when I was able to, start, being able to play songs all the way through. I'm not going to lie, I cheated. There was a magazine, I think it was called Guitar for the Practicing Musician, came out once a month, and there was always 4 or 5 songs that was all tabbed out, where they, told you what number, what fret to put your fingers on. And so, you always pray every month that the song you want to learn was in there. And that's really kind of how I started learning. And then once you learn a couple artists that way, a lot of times they follow the same kind of patterns a lot in other songs. And then once my ears started developed, then I was able to, pretty much listen to the song and pick it up by my ears.
Okay. Do you recall what that first song was that you played on your guitar? Did you were able to start it from the beginning and finish it to the end without messing up?
Detroit Rock City by Kiss.
Really?
Yeah, it's a simple. I mean, if you're a guitarist, it's a simple song. So that was in guitar. That was in that guitar magazine. So yeah, I played that, and then the one that was a close second was Holy Diver by Dio. Now, I will admit, like the solo, I mean, it was it was by guitar standards, it was a sloppy rendition, but I could play it. So, so when I was able to learn that by Vivian Campbell, yeah, I felt like I was on my way at that point.
Cool. Have you, actually, let's word it this way. Can you tell me, or do you remember what your very first concert was and who you saw?
That's an easy question. I saw the Cult open up for Metallica on the Justice Tour.
Where was that at?
Richfield Coliseum.
The old Richfield Coliseum. Gotta love it.
Which I still say, as far as an indoor arena, that's still my favorite venue ever to go see a concert. I loved them all there.
That's cool. How many times have you seen Metallica? Do you recall?
I think I was trying to count the other day. I can think of at least 6 for sure, but it's possible that there were others. It was the 80s, I'm not quite sure, but 6 for sure.
The older we get, that memory starts to fade a little bit, right?
Yep, no doubt.
Have you ever had an opportunity to see your favorite band, Van Halen, in concert?
Yeah, I've seen them. I counted those the other day too. I think I've seen them about at least 5 times, I believe.
Okay.
And then Sammy Hagar, I've seen countless times beyond that since he left the band.
Now, when you saw Van Halen, was it Sammy playing or was it David playing?
I never saw him with David. My first tour I saw him on was, they did the For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge tour, and then they released, I think it was Right Here, Right Now. It was the live recording of that tour, and then they toured for that live. It was like a double CD. That was the tour I saw him. It was in the summer of '93. So yeah, that was prime time Sammy Hagar there.
That's cool. I never had the opportunity to see Van Halen, unfortunately.
When the day Eddie died, I just laid in bed that night, just going through everything I could find on social media, and I saw the video for "Humans Being" come up. It was the last song they recorded together, I believe, for the Twister soundtrack in '96. Yes. And actually, the rumor has it that's the making of that song was kind of what did them in. And man, you watch them play that song in that video. They were a force to be reckoned with. I mean, they were a powerhouse. They really were.
Now, were you a David Lee Roth guy or a Sammy Hagar guy, or were you just a fan of the band?
Gary Sharon. No, I'm kidding.
Well, that was going to be a third option and possibly a trivia question for later on, but never mind that now.
Listen, that question's been debated. I mean, if you get on social media, it's debated to the point I can't stand to read the comments anymore. Listen, I'm an Eddie Van Halen guy. I grew up, my early years were the David Lee Roth, and when he left, I was devastated. I didn't think they would ever recreate what they did, and they didn't recreate it. They made something completely different. It's like apples to oranges. You cannot compare it. But Sammy Hagar took them to a whole different level, and it just made, to me, it was just a whole different feel. But I will never, everyone's tried to goat me into these debates before. I like the Eddie Van Halen era. They're all incredible. I mean, both catalogs of music, they're unrivaled. They really are. They're phenomenal. So I will not. They're both great.
And you can look at their entire catalog of music, and you can debate, like you said, back and forth. But I think that with David, they had just as many hits as they had with Sammy singing as well. And that's just my opinion. You can look at it and say, well, David brought this energy. Well, Sammy brought these vocals, whatever it might be, but it was still the band. And that's a lot of debate that I try to avoid with some friends and things like that on social media with Metallica. Are you, the earlier Metallica fan? Are you liking them now? I'm a fan of the band. It doesn't matter if they cut their hair back in '96 or '97 for their Load tour, that album. I'm a fan of the band. I like the band from their first album, Kill 'Em all the way up to their most recent one, Hardwired to Self-Destruct, and everything in between. Saint Anger, yeah, maybe a little iffy on that one, but I enjoyed all their music. And it's not a matter of, what bass player was in the band or if they had long hair or not. I just enjoyed the music because that was my band.
Amen, brother. It was for a long time for, the people that grew up in the 80s, because the thing with Metallica, I mean, we all kind of felt like we had ownership of that band because we loved them before the Justice album came out. When the Justice album came out, that's when they hit MTV, and that's when everybody in the world all of a sudden loved Metallica. We loved them years before that, and it really became an unpopular thing to say that you liked anything past Master of Puppets. If you weren't gung-ho on the first, which I am gung-ho on the first three, I love them all. They're phenomenal records. But I dismiss that argument. I agree with you. They made good music right up till, what was the last one, 2018?
Yeah, they had Hardwired to Self-Destruct.
Yeah.
And I can put that on now and listen to it from front to back. And to me, there's not a bad song on there. But that's just me. Other people can't, like you said, can't get past the, Master of Puppets album. And like you said, with the mainstream of And Justice for All going on to MTV. And that's when I caught on to them, was the one video. And then the Black Album with the Enter Sandman video. That's when I caught on to them, because that's when I was watching MTV, and that's my middle school years. But then you become curious of a band, and you start looking at, wait, what other music do they have out there? So then you start looking and digging, and you're looking at all their older stuff and going, holy crap, look at all this music. And then you just fall in love with it because you like the band.
Yep. Yeah, no doubt. I got nothing more to add to that. That's perfectly said. Yeah.
So if you look at Van Halen, you look at Metallica, you look at the Beatles, pick one of the three, doesn't matter to me. Do you have a favorite album by one of those bands that, regardless of what kind of mood you're in, regardless of what's going on, you could put this in, it takes you right back to a certain point in time, and you can just listen to the thing front to back and love it to death?
Well, first of all, they all take me back to a specific place in time. I can put any one of them on at any time, and it's just like a mental yearbook for me. It just takes me right back there. If you're talking Van Halen, for me, it's got to be 1984. That's the album that I was aware of Van Halen before that, but that's right when I started playing guitar, and that's right when I came into my teenage years. And to me, they were gods. In 1984, I mean, my God, the video for Panama and Hot for Teacher, I mean,
Oh yeah.
you couldn't get any cooler than they were then. So it would definitely have to be 1984 for Van Halen, which surprisingly, I listened to Eddie Trunk on Sirius XM. He has a talk show, and they did a show on ranking the David Lee Roth era albums, and almost everybody had 1984 as their least favorite album. And I was screaming at the radio. I'm like, I don't buy that. Those songs, every one of those songs is phenomenal. And yeah, you can say that Jump was like, the keyboard and it was, all poppy and they sold out. That's my least favorite song on that album. Is all the other songs besides Jump, they're phenomenal. So yeah,
that
I disagree.
surprises me as well. I don't see how that would be the least favorite album. But then again, it's same thing with Metallica fans. One of their least favorite albums could be, the Black Album.
Saint Anger.
Or Saint Anger. Yeah,
or Lulu.
One. But, it's just everybody has that. I don't like this album, and these are the stupid reasons why. But yeah, that's interesting. That's their least favorite album.
I thought so too.
I
don't know if you asked. Did you ask me about Metallica as well?
Yeah. Is there a favorite one that you have?
It's got to be Ride the Lightning. That's just pretty much because that's kind of where I came in at with those guys. First time I ever heard For Whom the Bell Tolls, I was an instant believer. That band was it for me at that time. So yeah, it's got to be that. Even though I'll be honest with you, a lot of their albums came out during my formative years, so the newer ones aren't as high on my list just because they didn't come out during great big moments of my life. I could listen to any of them. They're all phenomenal.
I agree with you as well. I can listen to pretty much anything that they have. Switching gears here a little bit. I'm looking down through your list. Def Leppard and Living Color. Def Leppard, the 80s stuff. I can get that. Anything in particular? Why Def Leppard?
Well, again, the year's 1983. They had a little record you may have heard of. It's called Pyromania. Came out, and that was actually one of the first, if you want to call it metal, I call it more hard rock. That was really one of the first hard rock albums that got major radio play. And I'm not just talking like Quiet Riot had Come On Feel the Noise. That was the first one to really chart. But Def Leppard, there was probably 3-4 singles off that song that, Hot 101 played it constantly, I remember, back in that year. And again, I'm just starting to play guitar. You see Phil Collins on they're talking about MTV circulation. They were on MTV all the time with videos from that. So yeah, they just hit it big with that album during my formative years, no doubt about it.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. And then they had a few good albums and a few good songs to go along with it, but once again, that 80s mainstream MTV airplay, I think, helped out a lot more bands than record sales, because you see them on MTV and you're like, who the hell is this? Then you go buy it. So without MTV, maybe some of these bands might not become as popular as they would have. That's debatable itself.
I agree. And I would imagine a lot of people couldn't name too many new hard rock bands that have come out in the last 5 years. I can't. And one of the biggest reasons, you're not exposed to them on a daily basis. Back when I was growing up, man, you turn on MTV. Actually, you could turn on, I shouldn't say you could turn on radio. You could turn on the radio for some things like Def Leppard. But if you got on MTV, especially when they started Headbangers Ball, you got exposed to a lot of great bands and great music.
Maybe it's just the area we live in. I know you mentioned you had Sirius XM, and so do I. And I frequent all the rock channels on there, whether it's Ozzy's Boneyard or Turbo, because that's the 90s, 2000s rock that I was in and went to a lot of concerts and stuff. And then they have, it's going to slip my tongue right now. I can't think of the name. But they have a couple different channels. We're playing new rock on there. And there's a lot of new bands out there, but when you put on local radio, there's country, Hot 101, Mix 98.9 that's playing all this other stuff out there, but there's no new hard rock channel in the area at all.
Agreed. Yep.
So how can anybody in this area get exposed to anything if you don't have satellite radio?
Exactly. And I'll go a step further. It's not that they won't even play new bands. They won't play new stuff from classic bands. If Def Leppard put out a new album tonight, you're never hearing it.
No,
Never.
no. Hey, here's a new one by Metallica, and they're playing something off the Load or the Load Tour, Reload album or whatever, from 1997.
Yeah.
If they say, hey, we have, um, Metallica coming up, you want to hear something new. You don't want to hear something back from the early 80s. Mix it up a little bit. It just kind of, gets old, playing the
Yeah.
same old songs on the same old stations.
Agreed.
We need to change that. Let's change. Let's make a movement.
You need to change your podcast to a satellite radio channel. Is what you need to do.
Well, I'm already getting broadcasted on Spotify, which is pretty cool.
That is cool.
I need to.
Congrats, by the way.
Thank you. That just is something fun I just decided to come up with and do and be able to, virtually interact with some friends and talk music and, BS a little bit and see where it goes. And, so far I've got a decent amount of plays off of my 3 episodes that I have and got some, a little bit of interest off of some friends, but I had to reach out to people here and there and say, hey, you want to do this? And everybody's like, well, I'm kind of nervous. What do I got to do? I'm like, that's all you got to do is just sit and look at a computer and just talk to me. And whatever comes out, comes out. Whatever happens, happens. Tell the audience, Todd, is this hard?
No, it's not. But I will say, you asked me on the questionnaire, I forget like what I know about Van Halen and Metallica, and I got a little cocky and I said, I pretty much know everything. And then I listened to your last podcast where you're like asking people's birth dates, and I'm like, then I started to panic. I'm like, oh man, I gotta start doing some research here before I come on. But I didn't read a thing. I thought so.
Well, I do have a Van Halen quiz that I found on.
Yeah, I don't know Valerie Bertinelli's birth date, so don't even ask that. I don't know.
No, I don't even know what website I'm on. It says 20 facts about rock legends Van Halen. So,
all right,
you want to try a couple of these questions and see if you can give the answers?
Let's see what I know.
Okay, so very first one on here is Van Halen, according to their contracts, demanded bowls of what in their dressing rooms before all their shows?
Well, I believe the answer is M&Ms, but what you're looking for is they could not have any brown M&Ms in the bowl. And they later on, I never heard this back in the 80s, but a couple of years ago, I read this book, and David Lee Roth said they did it to make sure that the promoters were reading the riders to make sure everything, all the safety aspects of the rigs were in place. And then they claimed that if they found brown M&Ms, that means they didn't read it, so they would just trash the dressing room. So that was easy. Next.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's not that I was trying to stump you on the first one, but I mean, not everybody would maybe recall information like that. So that's pretty good. All right. The second question on here is, according to legend, Van Halen borrowed their logo from this famous guitar player.
Oh, their logo?
Yes, they borrowed their logo from this famous guitar player's poster, to be exact.
Okay, I remember the original one from the 70s. Wow, Ron, you might got me. You might have me on this one.
Uh-oh.
I'm not real hip on my 70s. I don't know. I mean, 70s, it would have to be a 70s guitarist then, right?
Correct.
Oh my gosh. I know Eddie was a big Eric Clapton fan, but I don't think Eric had any logos like that.
They say on here,
you got me.
They borrowed their logo from a Jimi Hendrix poster.
Okay, I could see that. Yep. All right. I was not thinking. I would have never got that.
Van Halen was the most radically creative and influential guitar player since Hendrix, and they were inspired by him. So they stole the logo off of his poster, the VH, and that's how they came up with their Van Halen logo.
Well, how about that? Never heard that before.
No. This one might be kind of easy, but this is to me a funny fact. Van Halen once made $1.5 million from one single concert.
US Festival, 1983.
Can you name that person in the band that was drunk throughout the entire concert?
Oh, you changed it up on me. I thought I knew the answer. Who was drunk? Well, I know Eddie was notorious for drinking a lot because to calm his nerves. So my guess would be Eddie.
You are incorrect.
Oh my
According
gosh.
to this, they made $1.5 million from a single concert at which David Lee Roth was drunk throughout the entire concert.
Wow. Huh.
Yes. And that was
I'm getting lit up on this.
in 1983. They headlined the heavy metal day of the US
Festival. Yep.
Cool. Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny. I mean, you're getting paid $1.5 million just to be hammered up on stage in front of a crowd of people.
Yeah, and at the time, that was a ridiculous amount of money. I mean, it was completely ridiculous. And I think they asked them. I believe the story was they asked for that kind of money. They didn't think they were going to get it, and they got the money anyway. So.
Oh yeah. All right. We'll try to do one or two, three more or something like that on here.
All right.
The band has had 8 official members over the years. Are you able to name the 8 official members?
Well, Sammy. Well, wait. Let's go. Let's just start from the back. David Lee Roth, Michael Anthony, Alex Van Halen, Eddie Van Halen, and then Sammy Hagar, Gary Cherone, Wolf Van Halen makes 7. Oh God, who am I leaving out? Don't tell me.
I won't.
Did I say Sammy?
Who?
Did I say Sammy Hagar?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, official? I mean, I know they had some musicians, but like before they were officially named Van Halen. Michael Anthony, Eddie, Alex, David Lee Roth, Sammy Hagar, Gary Cherone. I'm only coming up with 7.
So initially, the brothers played alongside David Lee Roth on vocals and Mark Stone on bass. Shortly before the band signed with Warner Brothers, Stone was replaced by second bassist Mark Anthony.
Mike went. Yeah, and I thought they were called Mammoth at the time when Stone played with them. I could be wrong.
Well, that was probably one of my other trivia questions that you probably already stole the answer to, but
yeah, and actually his son Wolfie's new band is called Mammoth Mammoth WVH, I believe, in honor of that band, or honor of that name, I should say.
Yeah. Okay. Can you name the famous I think he's a guitar player that helped Van Halen get signed to their original contract?
Well, the person I could think of right off the bat is Gene Simmons from Kiss.
Correct. Very good. Yeah. How about that?
Yep. He actually he flew him to New York City, did some demos, and rumor has it that he actually wanted to steal Eddie for Kiss. He wanted to replace Ace Frehley with Eddie Van Halen, and they actually cut some Kiss demos with Eddie playing guitar, and Gene made Ace Frehley listen to it and play note for note on some of the songs. He made him recreate what Eddie did.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. That, I mean, regardless of who I talk to or what band we talk about, it's always it's fascinating and cool to me that you know so much about Van Halen, or my friend JG, the other podcast that I talk, he knew so much about Dave Matthews Band, and
I heard that. Yeah, that's impressive.
But that's what it is. It's impressive. That fascinates me that there's people that know stuff about certain bands and they don't know all the ins and outs, but that's what music does to people, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I love that. All right. I'm trying to see if I could find one more here. This is like a big long page. That's kind of a stupid question. I don't know. This is that's a hard question. You won't be able to get that. They once played an open air gig during a freak snowstorm. Can you name the year or the tour that they played?
I never heard this story. I'm going to throw out a guess. It was like the blizzard of 78. I have no idea.
During their 1995 Balance tour, Van Halen played at an open air amphitheater in Denver, Colorado, where it was snowing.
Oh, I don't remember that. Huh.
That's pretty cool. Not bad. You had some few answers there, but a lot of knowledge, though, once you were able to elaborate on some of that stuff. Cool.
Thank you.
Well, Todd, do you have anything else for me? Because I enjoyed having you on here. This is awesome.
Hey, it's not what I have for you, man. Yeah, listen, what do you want to know? I'm an open book. I can talk for the next 4 hours.
Well, you and I are going to have to go back and we're going to go revisit some stuff, and maybe we'll sit down and have another conversation here one of these nights soon.
I would love
And
to do that.
maybe you can put on a little guitar solo on on my podcast here, that way
Oh
everybody
man,
can hear you play a little something. How about that?
I don't know if they want to hear that, but we'll see. Now the pressure's on.
There you go. Well, Todd Stokes, I appreciate your time tonight, sir. And I hope you had some fun. I know it was good seeing you again, even though it's virtual.
This was great. I loved it. And please tell your beautiful wife, Jen, and your awesome son, Aaron, that I said hello and Merry Christmas to everybody.
Absolutely, I will. And same as to you and your family. Merry Christmas. And we'll definitely do this again, Todd. And I do appreciate you guys coming on. And that'll do it for episode number 4 here on my Music Spectrum podcast. My name is Ron Glista. Thanks again to my guest tonight, Todd Stokes, with all his information on Van Halen, Metallica, and much, much more. We will definitely sit down and do this again, sir, and we'll have to figure out what that time will be. So, but I appreciate you coming on, Todd. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Take care.
All right, guys. You guys have a good night, and we will see you on my next episode. Thank you.